Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. It has been a crazy busy week. I held my streamathon last week. Was doing 12 hours a day playing through a shuffler where Final Fantasies 1 through 9 would just randomly shuffle between each other, so I essentially had to remember where I was and how to progress in all of them simultaneously. And it went pretty well. We got to the 6th day, and I almost completed one of the Final Fantasy games. A couple of them were actually kind of close. It came to an end after just shy of 60 hours total across that time. 60 hours of time added on top of my starting time. It was a lot of fun. And I learned a lot of things, and I already have some ideas for another one to do a few months down the line. Probably something closer to the fall holiday season, because I'm going to be looking for stuff to occupy me during the downtimes between 6.5 and 7.0. So I've already got like a bunch of ideas and how to incorporate new things into that. And on top of that, I actually want to take some of that and highlight it and put it here for some of you to enjoy, because there's a lot of me getting frustrated at like bad time swaps or too rapid of a swaps or being swapped into really random places or picking an item out of a pot in the game swapping. There's a lot of very funny, weird occurrences. Not to mention, I probably should upload that 16 and the rest of the stuff to the VOD channel, which I've been really bad at doing consistently. As for the next week, Criterion's on Tuesday. I have a group for it. I will be posting stuff on Criterion and on Variant this week, so that's going to be the majority of the content that's hitting the channel. I do have some other stuff to take care of, I think. I'm going to be hopping into Diablo on Thursday for Season 1. I didn't even do the story, so like I have to do the story first, but I think, yeah, I'll probably hop into Diablo on Thursday evening and check it out, because I was meaning to, but it's just such a bad time with 16 and 14 stuff, like all kind of sandwiched, around Diablo, I suppose. What else? There's something else I wanted to share with you guys. It wasn't... Oh! So... one of the things I had going on my stream is I was raising funds for a new metal DDR pad. For those who don't know, I used to be competitive, locally competitive. I'd go around like local tournaments and stuff and compete. And I haven't done that in a long time. But we raised it, or we almost raised it, and I just pulled the trigger on it anyway. And so I do have a metal DDR pad, an LTEC, coming. Cobalt Flux hasn't made anything in a couple of years now. So unfortunately, I couldn't grab the one that I used to have, one I'm familiar with. But the LTEC one looks good. It's got the metal bar and everything. So I'm probably not going to post anything on YouTube, because music-related content's always kind of a scary thing. Even live streaming is kind of scary. I'll probably have to split the audio and make sure it doesn't actually save on the VOD or anything like that. But it is something that's going to be happening over on the Twitch channel as well. Maybe I post something about it here occasionally, but probably not too often, because I said I would do the same with Theater Rhythm, and I didn't do that. But I figured I'd let you guys know. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be weird hopping back into In the Groove in particular. That's probably what I'll play the most. But there's so many charts online. Again, you just got to be careful with the fact that it's music. The way that kind of stuff gets shared around is always kind of sketch back in the day, and nowadays is way less kosher to be involved in a lot of that stuff. Maybe go back to making my own step charts and stuff too. Those are just a little bit of news. Don't forget, I'm not going to FanFest, so be sure to come by my stream July 28th. I'll be co-streaming the entirety. You know what I should do? I don't know if my pad will be here in time. I was going to say, maybe I should make custom charts for 14 songs and play them during FanFest, like as in the breaks in between stuff. Maybe. I don't think the pad will be here in time. If it ships quickly enough, maybe I do that. But I'm not going to make that promise right now. Anyway, let's get to the Q&A. There's been only a few questions in the last few weeks, so, I'll just check the comment section. If you ever have a question, by the way, don't forget to put it in the comment section below. So we'll see what we got. Anyway, thanks to our sponsors over on Patreon for supporting. Nobody has to support there. All my content's available for free. We don't money gate any content on the channel. I just don't feel like doing it. But it's appreciated when you support there through super chats or whatever the heck you want to do, or just watch the video, because quite frankly, I'm glad people watch the video. Also, don't forget SteelSeries 12% discount code. I always do that reminder, because that's year round. It's summer. Some people are looking to upgrade their sets, or they're starting to look into things for the holiday season. So don't forget about that. And of course, we always have Advanced GG with the 10%. Anyway, with that, I think we're good to get into the questions, so let's get started. Hashtag Mrhappy Hyundais. The Hyundai confused the heck out of me. Good day, Sir Haps. Good day. Thanks in no small part to you, I finally managed to catch up and explore every piece of 14's content that isn't high-end rating, so I decided to spread my wings and try out some other MMOs, namely Guild Wars 2. I know you made content for it in the olden times. I was wondering two things. One, what seemingly didn't hold your attention? So if you think gear is useless in 14, Guild Wars 2 defines useless gear, or gear being glam. It never felt like they ever had a footing for making content rewarding. The only thing I ever found of value in that game were oddly seasonal events and world versus world versus world, which every time I went to bed, it felt like I just woke up to my team losing. And if I spent all day at it, it would just be the same. I would come back and it'd be the same thing every day. So I just lost all interest in it. I did kind of like fractals when they eventually came around, but I hated agony resistance as a mechanic. It's just such a not good gameplay mechanic. They abandoned dungeons for a really long time. And when they did eventually come out with raids, it came with Heart of Thorns, and Heart of Thorns launch was rough. Like, it was just not a well-balanced launch at all. I hear that the living story, I hear the more recent stuff has been a lot better, but I don't know how much of that stuff has changed in particular to make it a more sustainable experience. You know, something I could spend time on. But visiting should be A-okay. I always like the combo systems, the field system that they have, and the PvP was always a lot of fun to me. So, but I can never just play a game on PvP. It's just a trait that I have. It's why I can't stick with stuff like League of Legends. It's why I don't play things like Battle Royale. It's just it can never be the main draw for me. There needs to be a good amount of PvE, and then I like to PvP on occasion if I enjoy the PvP, but never as like a mainstay. It was the same with Rift. Rift, all I ever liked doing was PvPing also. I couldn't stand anything else in that game. Two, if you could choose one feature to translate from Guild Wars 2 to 14, the answer when every game to 14 is always glam. Transmog, whatever every game calls it, you know, it's always going to be that, because I think 14's has the most complex and complicated and not intuitive glam system of pretty much all the MMOs out there. So that's always going to be the answer. And Guild Wars 2 is kind of like glam book that they've had. They've had like a good glam system since launch. It's always been like a tippy top tier one. So that's always going to be the answer. Oh my goodness, this is a wall of text. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Happy. Hi, hope you're doing well. Same to you. So my brain is kind of in new expansion mode right now with FanFest, so I have two questions for you that are 7.0 related, if that's okay. I mean, we don't have any definitive answers, so I don't know what I can answer, but I'll try. One, I'm a newer player, so this is my first FanFest going to be able to watch live, which is exciting. I was wondering if for you personally, though, which of the three were the most exciting? For the FanFests? Oh, no, you mean of the previous ones. The anticipation of seeing all the announced 14's very first, finally seeing the end of basically a 10-year-long story of it being finally. Of the three, well, we've had... So now I'm a little confused because which of these three, meaning you're giving me three. That's why you're giving me example. All right, I got there. Don't worry. The anticipation of seeing all the announcement for 14's very first expansion with Heavensward, finally seeing the end of the 10 years with Endwalker, or it finally being able to see the beginning of a brand new story with 7.0. I got to go Heavensward on that. You got to remember that for me, I followed the game for many, many years. You know, I played back in 1.0. I had played 11 for all the years prior. And the way that the game shaped out for 1.0 is depressing. Straight up as a long-term fan, depression that it was what it was. Which made the whole announcement that, you know, they were changing the director and then the director was going to release a 2.0 version and make all these improvements was by far the most exciting thing for someone who had already been a part of the franchise and who had already been following and playing the game. And so Heavensward being the first expansion, there was a special kind of energy about it. It was very much a confirmation that they had succeeded in 2.0. 2.0 releasing was not a guarantee that 2.0 was successful. 3.0 releasing was an assurance that 2.x had been successful. The game had been actually reborn and was not in the process of falling off again and was instead undergoing growth. Now, Heavensward's launch and patch 3.1 were really rough on the player base, so that's how I felt with the announcement to Heavensward. How I actually felt once we got to play it, the story, you know, as good as it was, the actual gameplay elements of it being much rougher. So yeah, no, I think Heavensward wins just from virtue of being that affirmation that it wasn't a waste of time. All that time waiting, all that time supporting, was well and above worth it. Do I fully understand guesses on new jobs are just that, guesses, especially before even the first fan fest. That said, I'm thinking about Kryle in the bigger role she's supposed to play in 7.0. She's going to be a caster. I have no doubt she's going to be a caster. We are all very confident we're getting a caster DPS. It's whatever other DPS or job that we're going to get that everyone's kind of in the air guessing about, like what the role is going to be. You know, some people are going scouting because there's only one. I am of the opinion scouting needs to go back to being combined with striking. Too many melee gear sets as there is right now. Scouting was part of the striking gear set when it released. And honestly, Final Fantasy XI, Monk, Ninja, and Samurai all share gear. So it honestly still makes sense. Just looking at 11 for an example. Not the greatest thing to do, but, you know, I'm going to throw it out there. So I would like to ignore the scouting thing and say Fizz ranged would be the other thing they would probably want to throw in there, because it's the last thing that kind of needs one more thing, I suppose. And then you kind of have everything level, and then everything's on the table again, it feels like. Assuming she gets one of the new jobs, do you at least think the job from the game that hasn't been used yet? No. So do you mean, considering her ties to Final Fantasy V, do you at least think a job from that game? I don't think so. She has the devout outfit, but I don't think you'd see devout, for example. No, I don't think so. No, I don't think there's any reason to suspect that. I think they're going to go with something 14 original for her, or a twist on something from another Final Fantasy game that 14 puts its original take on. But yeah, I think she'll be a caster, but I don't think it'll be something from Final Fantasy V. Hashtag Happy Mondays with Mr. That's me. The past week, we have our... I feel like it's been weeks since we've had a non-helloer. So, unfortunate. This past week, I've started actually working on gearing my character with higher gear and maneuverable weapons, but it brought the question to mind. With 6.45 coming out on Tuesday, will the Anabasios raid series be uncapped? No. It probably won't be uncapped. The normal mode... You said raid series, so I'm assuming you mean normal. Probably not until the next full patch. The Savage probably won't be unlocked for another like 10 weeks, 10 to 12 weeks after that minimum, probably more. And that's depressing. They really just, it doesn't matter. They should just unlock it as soon as possible. Just here's, okay, so here's, I'm going to make another advocation for why it should be done early. Criterion comes out on Tuesday, 6.45, as you've said. Criterion, you don't need BIS from Anabasios to do Criterion, despite what some people may feel like, you know, may seem to imply. You do not need it. You probably want it for Savage, but you don't need it for normal at the very least. And you probably don't even need it for Savage. Anyway, moving on. That being said, a lot of people interpret it that way, and thus unlocking the tier when you've released this new content is probably a good idea. Now, I will say this. If Criterion has gear upgrades, then maybe you don't, because now you're giving people more options. But let's be honest, it's not going to have those things. I'd be shocked if Criterion has anything useful to make me do it multiple times, or even to make anyone do it multiple times. And that's depressing. But no, yeah, Anabasios normal probably still won't be uncapped, and then Savage, you know, the everything I just said. And for tombstones, these tombstones will be 450 capped probably until 6.58. Which is, you know, like January or February, probably, if I had to guess. As to answer the last part of the question, what happens to gear sets that are specific to certain tomes that are no longer around? So some of them get cycled into hunts. Generally, like the Asfidelos stuff is currently available from the hunt. The tome gear in particular, stuff that was from around that era, the 6.0, 6.1 era. The 6.2 stuff is currently available with uncapped tomes. Only uncapped level 90 tomes, and then 6.4 stuff is capped level 90 tomes. What'll happen, I think they moved the 6.2 stuff into the hunt when they when 7.0 comes out, but 6.4 stuff will be poetics. I think that's how it is. It's been a while since I've looked at the old NPCs, but that sounds close to correct to me. But yeah, it's they get moved into the hunt afterwards for nuts or seals, depending on the expansion. But yeah, that's the last answer to the question before I move on. You did also technically ask how long tombstone cycles last. I answered the question for just this cycle. Every even numbered patch, except for the last one, which goes by the rules they say. Dude, I swear the last like 2 or 3 weeks, I've been tired to the point where I read like half the question, try to give the answer, and I miss the point of the question. I swear it's happened like every week for like 3 weeks now. This would have been the 3rd week if I didn't actually stop and read that question. So I apologize. I've been cramming myself, and I think it's starting to show. So hopefully... That's that now I've answered all of them. So even numbered patches, so 6.0 to 6.2, then 6.2 is a new one, then 6.4 is a new one, and then that stays till the end of the expansion when we get the new ones in 7.0. Hashtag Mondays with Happy. Just Happy, not Mr. Happy. I've lost that title. Hey, Happy. Hi. While speculation at the moment is that a caster might come with a next expansion, do you think there's a good chance it could have a res like Summoner or Red Mage? I don't think there's any reason to suspect there is a good chance. Is it a possibility because some of the casters have it? Absolutely. Could you also argue that it shouldn't have one because there would be 2 casters with one and then 2 casters without one if they excluded it? Sure. I also think resurrections are way too powerful in Final Fantasy XIV, at least in actual high-end content. Now, Anabasios has a lot of body checks, which makes it less powerful, which makes it more comfortable to take stuff like Black Mage, but not entirely rule out stuff like Red Mage and Summoner for reses. I think that's a decent balance in the actual encounter design, but body checks come with their own problem where you absolutely need a minimum number of people alive or the mechanic fails. So there's pros and cons to both, but I think there's too many resurrections in 14 as it is, so I would not advocate for a caster with a res, a third caster that has a res. Also on 13 stuff, love that game. My dislike of hope more comes from just him tying constantly to a butterfly. Yeah, he's pretty fragile until you get to the later chapters. But I mean, yeah, no, I was obviously talking about him as a character where feel like that lack of empathy really gets to people. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Haps. Hi. Random question, but sometimes you say we when you're talking about working on your videos. Maybe wonder if you have a team. So I don't know why I've always said we, but I've always considered that the channel in and of itself is kind of like, it's like a multiplayer. Like a lot of the content I only have because of the people that either are there in stream or I'm raiding with it with my static. They're not partaking necessarily in the making of the video or the designing of the content, but I've always kind of had that perspective of we as in like, it's something we're all a part of and we all share. It's like a common thread between myself as the creator and the people who enjoy the video. Sometimes I actually deliberately stop myself. I'm going, why am I saying we? I work on these videos alone. Like nobody assists me directly in them. But it's just something I've always done, and I catch myself doing it. And it never makes any sense. But yeah, that's all it really comes down to. It's just like that collective thread between myself and the people who enjoy my content. It just kind of makes it think like it's something we all share, I suppose. It's weird. I don't know. But I don't think I could ever have an editor unless they were just editing Twitch clips and like shorts and stuff, because I am way too like need to see and be a part of and control everything. I just can't not do it. All right, so this one's, I can see 16's in this question, but I actually skipped a 16 question. It was something we know from trailers and state of play, but again, I'm trying to be very careful about bringing 16 into the video and so I'm not answering a spoiler question. Before anyone worries, I'm not answering that. To answer the person's question, no, I don't think it was a reference to what you think it was a reference to. I think they just called it that because it was probably the same logic as to why I called it that. So I think that answers the question without saying what the question was. And honestly, people hearing the answer know what the question was if they played the game. So I think that works well enough. Anyway, on to this one. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Hopefully this one's not a spoiler. I just saw that 16 is written there. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hi. Hope you're doing well. Thanks. Wanted to leave a question alongside my comment. In this case, one about 16. Okay, so yeah, again, if this is spoilerific, this won't even make it into the video, and then I'll have to do the explanation for both of them. So let's see. A recurring criticism I hear of 16 is a complaint about it not being as strong as an RPG, whether or not it qualifies as being called a role-playing game at all. I was just simply curious if you could expand upon your previous answer to the topic, why you referred to it as an action RPG. I think I answered in that action RPG has become such a wide breadth and genre of games that often is anything that has RPG elements at all kind of falls into that category. It's just whether or not a game calls himself an action RPG or an action game with RPG elements. I think 16 leans more an action game with RPG elements because I probably wouldn't call it much more than that. But at the end of the day, I'm going by what it is officially defined as, and I'm not the one to determine that. I'm going to leave that up to the developers. They say it's an action RPG, it's an action RPG. I'm not going to tell them what it is or what it isn't. I'm going to regurgitate and be like, all right, that's That's what we got. That's what it is. I do agree with that assessment, though it doesn't in any way negatively impact the way I feel about the game. I find that there were times where I wanted it to have more RPG elements, but then I would start fighting something and immediately stop caring. So it didn't matter. But it has stats. It has, the basics that you need to say, oh, I've got improved health or defense or magic defense, or I've got cooldown reduction or bonus damage, or I've got something that changes the way that the dodge button works, or something that charges my magic, or something. Like, it has all these like individual elements that go into the equipment, but it is like just about here in terms of RPG elements. And as you can see, that's not very high up. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Cat Dad. Yeah, my cats are actually leaving me alone right now. They've been super, super annoying all day. So it's probably a good time for that. Greetings, Mr. Happy. Hope the cats are well. No real question this week, but a thought to share and a desire to hear your take on it. Okay, I mean, that's a question. Normally I don't advocate for these because a lot of the times I don't treat my opinion as something that is validation. For example, like if somebody brings like something to me and I go, yeah, that's a pretty cool idea. That's not like, I never want it to seem like I'm validating a thought, because I feel like that can be a little reckless sometimes. Most of the time it's harmless, but but either way, I'll still give this a look. With NA FanFest approaching, all are theorizing what the expansion reveal. I had one line of thought. Goldbad's talking about shattering the veil. Yeah. Or, escape from the wheel or whatever the heck he says. I guess this is 6.4 spoilers, but I don't care. After all, I assumed that grades have made barriers around. Okay, I'm kind of skipping around, so in case you don't want to read it, it's fine. This is good theory. Certainly be a client. I don't know how much the current story is going to have to do with the new story. We were told that when the expansion... So, A, we're going to know in less than 2 weeks what the expansion theme is. And then the theories really kick in about what happens in 6.5. I still think 6.5 is going to end, and 6.55 in its entirety will set up the expansion. Because they've said as much, that some major event in 6.55 will be the cause of the expansion. Like, will kind of just propel us into the expansion territory. So I don't think much of what's happening now has any impact on 7.0. I think it has some, but I don't think it's like it's this layer that's being put down to set up the next 10 years of Final Fantasy 14. Unlike the Crystal Tower, but I didn't feel that way about the Crystal Tower at the time too. So it's one of those things where I'm kind of glad I feel that way, because I'd rather feel like this isn't setting up 10 years of story and then be surprised when it does, again, much like the Crystal Tower, than the other way where I suspect it's like that and then it's not. I feel like that's way more disappointing than the way I'm thinking about it. So that's just kind of where my brain is defaulting to. But no, I think it's going to be independent. I think what's happening now is largely independent of what's going to happen for 7.0. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Hello. Hi. Hope all's well. Same to you. I know this summer year has been packed full of amazing games, but I've wondered, would you ever consider playing BDO? I hate BDO so much. I hate that game. Like, fundamentally hate that game. So I'm going to say no. Now, that isn't to say that it hasn't gotten better, because I acknowledge it has. A lot of games I don't like have gotten better. I was talking about Guild Wars 2 earlier. I have heard that things like the living story and the expansion updates have been better. I have a few people that would disagree that it's necessarily better, but it ping-pongs a little bit is more what they would say. And then you have Lost Ark, which I do not think has gotten better. Elder Scrolls Online, another one that every time I see it, it seems like it's doing things a little better. It's largely catering to the audience that it has. And it's fun. Elder Scrolls is a weird thing, because like I never really disliked Elder Scrolls Online, but it was always where like I fought with the part of me that wanted it to be more like Elder Scrolls and the part of me that wanted it to be more like an MMO. And I always kind of lived in this weird space. Like, kind of like when I mentioned with Rift, the only thing I really could get deep into was the PvP. And even then, I didn't put that much time into the PvP. So it's like I can hardly say that that was the thing I liked. But when I have done like looks into the game and like developer looks and like with a pre-leveled character and everything, and I've been like, this is fun. But I don't know if it could ever pull my attention for long enough for me to get to the point where it's not fun anymore. Like, I don't know if, like, I would gladly play it again if given the opportunity. If a company said, hey, would you like to play it for like a sponsored thing or like as a streamer thing to check it out, I would, because I want Elder Scrolls Online to be good. But I don't know that it will ever command enough of my attention outside of like a sponsored op, for example. But BDO, I fundamentally hate that game. Like BDO is for me kind of the quintessential KMMO. And I don't mean like, oh, it's ultra grindy. It is, but it's more like it's all about, how do I put this? It's very flashy. It's meant to impress you immediately, but the staying power is not there. And that's like all Korean MMOs. Like, yes, I know a lot of people talk about Korean MMOs having an insane amount of grind, a lot of pay to win, a lot of cash shop, like an absurd amount of cash shop stuff. Like, that's kind of how people initially think of it. That's not how I think of it. I think about how they go for the immediate whoa impression about the game and the story and the graphics, and it's all kicking off so quick. And the gameplay, and you're dodging and doing this, that, and it's like, but it's all kind of like a hollow shell of promises in terms of like what your overall involvement with the game will be. A lot of the time it boils down to you have to be into one particular thing about it, or the amount of kind of mileage you lose. Like, imagine getting in the Lost Ark if you weren't raiding. Like, that's like, you make like 1 billion alts and that consumes so much time. Like, the PvP is fun and all, but I don't think it has that kind of save. And then Blade and Soul, funnily enough, because I really liked Blade and Soul, you had to be really into the raids or really into the PvP, and both can be incredibly frustrating. But BDO, it's like, there's nothing of interest there. Like, fundamentally, nothing that would ever make me play a game in BDO. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Good afternoon, Haps. Hi, good afternoon. Is it afternoon? Yeah, it's 4:30. Yeah, that's afternoon. That's not evening yet. More of a skill question. I've been trying to level all my jobs since they're going well. I have a system of using a D20 to pick your next job to level. That would drive me crazy. Working on White Mage, I'm just not understanding how I can keep the tank healed. We just ran a dungeon, tank kept dying, I ended up getting kicked. I mean, just heal them. I mean, at the low levels, you're missing a ton of stuff that makes it easier. And at the lower levels, White Mage is the single most griefable healer, unless you are Cure 2 spamming. Because, like, you're going to... Essentially, you give a regen to a tank, and they use cooldowns, and that's enough in a lot of cases. And then if you need to, you Benediction. Always use Benediction on tanks in dungeons on trash pulls. Do not hold on to it for any other reason. And since you're level 46 now, is Benny... I think Benny's 50. Yeah, Holy is 45 if memory serves. So, yeah. Once you hit 50, I get a IC. But you don't have, like, Tetra at that level. I don't even think you have your Lilies at that level. I think it's 52 for Lilies. I don't remember what level you get your first Lilies. But yeah, you don't, like, you're missing so much instant cast. You're missing off globals. Like, you don't have a size. You don't have Asylum. It's torture, the early levels. So, yeah, no, it's regen them and then Cure 2 if they need a heal. Like, there's literally nothing else you can do at the low levels as White Mage, and it's so utterly frustrating. But that's it. You have to do it. If they die and you're doing that, one of two other things is happening. Either they're an awful tank with terrible gear, or you have awful gear. One of those two things has to be happening in that case if they are still dying and you are doing those two things. Or they are pulling way too many mobs and not using defensives, which absolutely happens as well. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, how's it going? I'm meh. Oh, well, that sucks. I'm doing all right. My question for you is, would it be better to make all the main number of Final Fantasy games accessible on modern console before remakes? I say this as a huge Final Fantasy fan. I enjoy the remakes, but I missed 13. I didn't try. I mean, they are all available on Steam. But unfortunately, PS3 games are a disaster when it comes to porting them. It will be a very long time, I feel like, before Square Enix commits to getting 13 onto consoles modernly. I agree. They're never going to make 11 accessible on the console ever again. They shut that down. That's never happening because they cannot release 11 without Play Online, and they are not reconfiguring play online for the PlayStation 5. That will never happen. But all of them are available on Steam. And that's about all I can offer you as a condolence. Because as consoles go, the PS3 games and 11 are not happening. The question comes from a rumor about the remake of 9, yet we still don't have at least a... they can't remaster 13. The problem with the PS3 games is that games that were made for the PS3, unfortunately, were made for the PS3. And the PS3 was a disaster to develop for. That's why the 13 ports on Steam are awful, unless you install a bunch of fixes to them that just change things client side. Because they just... That's what we got. Like, that's what we can get. Remastering it is not a remaster. They practically need to start over when it comes to 13 stuff, because trying to fix up all the stuff they had to do for the PS3 to make 13 work is not going to happen. But also, the rumor of the 9 remake has been around for about 4 years now, and nothing's come of it. So I'm not going to give it any credence until something does come of it. And that was kind of the last question. The few are some like comments about my 13 stuff last week. One is about a question I missed the point of, which is kind of what I was referring to here when I said earlier I've had a bad habit the last 3 weeks of reading like half of a question, trying to answer it. So the point of the last week's question was due to power creep, people are missing the final phases of trials. In more particular notice is the final trial of 6.0 in normal mode. Where you just kind of skip through everything and nothing really seems to be happening. I mean, I don't think that's that big a deal. I think at that point, what matters more is that people can more easily get through and catch up to content versus having to deal with extended bouts in certain fights to, I guess, absorb the atmosphere more. I don't think it's a bad idea either to try to move those things, but I actually think there's just a bit of if they really want something to be experienced for a period of time, they need to develop it in such a way that bosses hard cut off and begin things at certain points, and that's a mistake they really shouldn't be making at this point with stuff like normal mode for 6.0's final trial, because they've made that mistake and rectified it in the past. So the fact that they've gone back to making that mistake and kind of not taking item level increases into a consideration, like the final trials at 40%, you should just be going into the final phase and the boss shouldn't be like targetable or killable anymore. Like, yeah, you might miss some like middle of the fight mechanics, but that's better than the final bit just only going on for like 15 to 20 seconds. So I could be on either side of the fence. I think making sure that people can speedily catch up is probably more important than a phase being played out for longer on a normal mode trial. But I see the validity in the other way around. So that's kind of my take on that to cover last week's thing that I kind of moved around and skipped over. Yeah, and then everything else is, like I said, just some comments on 13, some fitness stuff. People saying you should bring that back. Talking about a really annoying enemy in 16. You're right. It is the most annoying one. And then just a few other things. And hopefully that redemption to the 6.0 final trial example with the rest of the question. Hopefully that's redeeming. What time is ranked crystalline conflict? What time? Oh, that actually is a question. It just didn't have a hashtag. Well, then again, it says I'd say get rid of CC and put Blitzball. I don't know why you'd have to get rid of crystalline conflict to put Blitzball in the game. I don't know how those two things are equatable, but also Blitzball is bad and should not waste my time in Final Fantasy XIV any more than it wastes my time in Final Fantasy X. But I mean, you just have to get in as soon as the season starts. Like, you have to go as soon as the season starts. It has to be a priority. So that's my advice on that front for ranked crystalline conflict. Anyway, that is going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Be on the lookout for all that Criterion and variant stuff this week. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share for the video. And hopefully you'll be enjoying the content over the next couple weeks because we've got some fun stuff. I do have a video coming on Ever Crisis, by the way. I did play the beta, and I have some thoughts on it. It's actually pretty good, but, you know, it's a mobile game. I think TLDR, before I release that video, Ever Crisis, if you don't like mobile games, there's no reason why you would like Ever Crisis unless you're willing to overcome your dislike for your love for Final Fantasy VII. And two is, if you do like it, it has a lot of really impressive systems and content promises for an on-launch mobile game. But will eventually devolve into the, you log in, do whatever the event is, and log out probably. That's just how they all go. It's just, there's no reason to expect it. But there's going to be some exclusive story stuff that happens in that game, especially with First Soldiers. So that might be enough to get more people to play. Either way, that's going to be a wrap. I'll see you guys in next week's Q&A. And until then, I bid you adieu. Bye-bye.